What's up, everybody? It is Thursday, September 18th, 2025, and today I am continuing my discussion with a real-life hero. This is Many Shades of Blue, Part 2. My name is Corey Evitz, and I am not a rock star.
My name is Corey Evitz, and I am not a rock star. I am a caffeine junkie, licensed minivan operator, touring musician, and a proud American. Ride with me as I tour the greatest country on earth and talk to the real rock stars, our local legends, small town heroes, and those who bravely serve our country. And even though I'm not a rock star, I do live a pretty rock and roll life. This is it. This is America. This is the Not a Rock Star podcast.
Yo, welcome back to Not a Rock Star with Corey Evitz. I am your host, Corey Evitz. You probably noticed that I'm wearing the same outfit that I wore last week. And that's because I am continuing my discussion from last week with Mr. Stan Diggs, a real-life hero. Stan served as a state trooper in the state of Illinois for 28 years. And last week he had some tremendous stories, starting with his life growing up in Chicago and actually the tragedy that struck when he was 11 years old, but how he took that tragedy and let that motivate him to live a life of service so he can protect and serve others and to defend the defenseless. Stan also talked about his work as an undercover agent in narcotics. He talked about being a part of a SWAT unit that had to show up in hostage situations and shootouts. It was a very, very riveting discussion, and we're going to pick that right back up here in just a few moments. So make sure you tune in to the end. Now, real quickly, let me tell you about where I am playing this weekend. Tomorrow, on September 19th, I have a private event in Madisonville, Kentucky. If any of you want to send me a DM, perhaps I can get you into said private event for a small amount of money. Just kidding. Ironically, I am playing for bankers. That's what the event is. But anyways, sorry, it's private, so if you're not invited, I won't see you there. On Saturday, September 20th, I have two shows. I will be playing at Irene's Vineyard in Oblong, Illinois from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And then that night, I'm going to be playing at the Muddy Saloon in Wheeler, Illinois, both as the one-man band, but also doing a few sets with my new band, Corey Evitz and Revolver. That's going to be our debut public show, Saturday night, Wheeler, Illinois, Muddy Saloon, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. So don't miss that. But for some reason, if you do have to miss, the next day we're going to be playing again as a band at Route 45 Wayside in Pasodum, Illinois from 1 to 4. And then on Friday, September 26th, we are going to be playing the granddaddy of them all, Barbecue on the River, Paducah, Kentucky, 8:30 to 10 o'clock. So we are very, very excited about that. We're excited about all of those shows. Make sure you come support me, watch me do my one-man band thing, but also make sure you catch one of those shows with the full band. You will not be sorry. And then lastly, I need to remind you, we have another Empower Paducah event coming up on Monday, September 29th. Now remember, Empower Paducah, we have a concert the last Monday of every month, and we always have two great artists. So you don't want to miss it. The doors open at 6:30. The show is from 7 to 9. And remember, there is a $10 cover charge, but half of that always goes to help an area veteran. The other half always goes to help children in Paducah. So do not miss the next Empower Paducah event on Monday, September 29th, $10 cover. We're going to be helping veterans and children. It's at Paducah Beer Works. Doors open at 6:30. All right, guys. Well, let's pick this back up I'm excited to dive right back in. I'm excited for you guys to hear part 2 of this discussion with Mr. Stan Diggs. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Stan Diggs. All right, so we left off last week with the standoff with the elderly lady. Well, you said 41-day standoff?
41-day standoff, yes.
And that was one of the last straws. Your wife says to you, hey, we've got 3 kids. It's time for you to figure something else out. You don't need to be the one on the SWAT team anymore. So how long did it take you when you requested to get out of that? How long did they reassign you to something else? And then where did you go from there?
I don't remember exactly how long it took, but it was fairly quick because an opening came up where I wanted to go. I was wanting to go into tech services, okay, which was a specialized unit within the state police. And like I said, we had a full-time unit, and there were only 2 such units in the United States, okay, and we were one of them. We worked a lot of organized crime. We worked a lot of conspiracy cases, a lot of drug cases, a lot of homicide cases. We got a lot of training. We had training in, overhears, where we tapped telephones, plant small cameras. We did a lot of covert stuff where we may come and tap into your phone lines if this is an organized crime unit, or we're working a homicide trying to find out what you did with the body. So it was a clandestine, cloak and dagger unit. That, again, here I get another fake identity in case I'm ever pulled over working a case and I don't want the locals to know who I am and what I'm doing. Basically, same thing. Anthony Davis came back to life.
Nice. So you went back to being Anthony.
Yes, I revived Anthony Davis. Okay, he had a whole different role. He wasn't a drug dealer. He was a regular guy that, hey, I might be turned around, or I'm looking at, if I'm in a community I'm not supposed to, and I've driven through this subdivision a couple of times, and whether the community watch or some neighbor saw this car too many times and called the locals, say, hey, I've got this this green Jeep. At the time when I had a green Jeep, been driving by my house, or it's parked in our neighborhood because I'm sitting out with equipment listening to maybe your phone conversation. Locals would roll up on me, and I always had maps or something look like I'm lost, or I'm looking for, sometimes I'd have real estate stuff in my car to make it look like I'm looking to buy a house or buy some property. It looked like, basically, I was undercover again, playing a role of that, so that when they would run me, oh, okay, Anthony Davis. The drug information had been all deleted, so they're not getting, hey, this guy was arrested with drugs. No, it's just, guys, he's a realtor, or he's looking to buy property or whatever, and I might be asked to leave, something like that there. So we revised Anthony Davis and gave him a whole new outlook on life, and good for him. He cleaned his act up, and I did this, and but doing that, I worked some real crazy cases. I got a lot of training in cameras, photography, overhears. At one point, I held a license that only 18 people in the state of Illinois possessed. Out of, the whole 9 million people in Illinois, only 18 people possessed this license at this level, and I held one of those licenses. So it was a very technical unit, and but with that also, I became an instructor for the state police. I had to go through instructor development, so I taught a lot of classes. So I was all over the state in this unit, either working or teaching. So I worked a lot of, conspiracy or organized crime cases. And then I also taught a lot of classes, taught a lot of troopers, local officers, different things, depending on, what topic it was that I was teaching. So I did that for 8 years, and until we had we had a certain governor that did not like the unit. He thought we were investigating him, and the only reason he thought that all the time was because he was corrupt, and it was our boss. State police. Our boss is the governor of the state, and this governor was not a good guy. He was doing bad things, taking payments from people he shouldn't have been taking, holding children, hospitals hostages for, payments. but he would have us do what we call countermeasure sweeps on his house. I mean, we sweep his house for bugs, but then he would hire a private agency to go behind us to see if we left bugs in this house. Okay. The whole time, I mean, it wasn't us, it was the FBI who was doing that, and we knew it. But if the FBI is working in investigations, you can't say anything. And, he thought we were doing it, and it was really the FBI. But it was because he was guilty, he was dirty, and had a guilty conscience. And he wound up spending some time in one of our state facilities that you put people like that. Okay, so that governor is Rod Blagojevich.
I was going to say, are you free to speak on this?
Yes,
I do.
I can.
I do have questions.
It's public information now. It was, it was Governor Blagojevich. It's public that, the federal government, recorded him doing things, taking bribes, using his position illegally. But because he thought it was our technical unit, he started disbanding the unit. He would basically take our funding away. If your undercover vehicle, and I had an undercover van that had all kind of nice spy stuff in it, if it broke down, it didn't get repaired. Okay, if your equipment broke, you didn't have the money to fix it. Well, I knew, okay, the writing's on the wall. He's trying to completely dissolve this unit. But it was written in law that this unit is the only unit that can do certain acts in relation to the law, like run what we call Title IIIs. Only this unit can do it, okay, by state law at the time. So he couldn't completely just close the door on the unit, but he basically took enough money out of it that we were almost unoperable. So I saw the writing on the wall, and I got out and went back to investigations. I went back to investigations, and that was my next, my next chapter in my life with the state police.
Well, speaking of Anthony Davis getting a new lease on life, Rod Blagojevich has a new lease on life. He last year did the circuit, went on all the podcasts, and I'm just going to say I'm neutral on this because I just literally don't know. Like, you just told me more than I know about the whole situation. I was young when all that happened. I remember him going to jail. Prison, okay. Oh, yes, prison.
There's a difference.
But to hear him tell it, it's like the hero's journey. His version of it is like, I love my wife and my daughters. And I heard him he went on Joe Rogan. I've heard him on a few other podcasts, but his version is he was set up to some degree. Something went on when, at the time, Senator Obama became president, and there was a seat that he was supposed to be appointing someone to, and he tells it as if he was like unjustifiably set up. And then now he's got this new lease on life. He's probably written a book. I don't know. But so I had it's the whole thing's kind of humorous to me because that was the reputation of Illinois anyways, is the governors all go to prison. But yeah, his whole thing now is basically he was set up, and I don't know. Any thoughts?
I would say this. When people go to prison, my take on that is one of the first things they think about is, wow, how did I get here? Okay. And then how do I get out? Okay. And where's Jesus?
Right.
Okay. And I got to call my mama. This guy, I guess they faked his voice when they caught him on tape trying to sell then Senator Obama's seat that was vacated when he was running for presidency. And I guess they faked his voice when he was holding that hospital, that children's hospital, not wanting to give them their grant unless he got some money out of it. That case was, it was pretty public. They, of course, because it's a governor, a lot of that stuff get released, and it's his voice and his wife's voice. And if you, you won't remember it because you were young, but back then, boy, did she have a mouth on her. Okay. They were, they were public enemy number one because they were caught. Okay. They were basically caught on tape. He went to prison. We have a judicial system. I said earlier in the last session that our system is not perfect, but it's our system. Okay, and you're judged by a jury of your peers, and that jury of his peers found him guilty. That's our system. Okay, and of course, he's a governor. He has money. Appealed it. Who knows how many times? And at every level, no, it was not overturned. You got a fair trial. The evidence was sufficient. You're going to prison, buddy. But if he was rehabilitated in prison, then the system worked. That's
Right.
the other part of the system. You go to prison and you do your time. Basically, as it's written, you pay your debt to society. And if that's what he did, then he should get a new lease on life. And if people want to pay him to talk, hey, he turned his life around. Okay, and you use that. You would want more people coming out of prison to turn their life around and to turn it into something positive if they can. This guy, because of his position being a governor of a major state. I mean, state of Illinois is, this is a major state. Fifth or sixth largest state, depending on how many people are leaving and coming at the time in the nation. Okay, and he lived in Chicago, on the third largest city. I mean, it's a big deal. So he's going to be news. He's going to be someone where talk shows are going to want to talk to. He literally was a governor, a sitting governor that went to prison. Granted, we're kind of famous for our governors going to prison, but he did. And like I said, if he turned his life around and made better, good for him and his family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a very skeptical person. And so when somebody stands to gain from their rehabilitation, and so again, I mean, you've just educated me and told me more than I ever knew about the whole thing. And basically all I remember is him going to prison, and then I've just heard him on podcasts. But it does seem, or I'll put it this way, I'm a little skeptical that a lot of this has to do with he was kind of playing for one team before, and perhaps now he sees if he attaches himself to the other side. I mean, he was pardoned. I'll just say that. So now if he attaches himself to maybe the side that got him out of prison, that maybe he can thrive in the current political environment and carve out a niche for himself where he can be comfortable and profit off of, So I'm skeptical that maybe that's what he's doing. But yes, sure, we obviously hope that he was rehabilitated, and we hope that for anybody. That was very good what you said. We want that for every person.
I think that if he can turn his life around, and what he's wanting to do is that, and he can get the public to kind of keep going down that road that you were kind of going on, that, whether he was set up or not, but he's this new person. There's people who've gone to prison, who's gotten out and has turned their life around, and who's run for politics again. Okay, because that's what people do. It gives them that power again. Maybe that's where he's going. I mean, I wouldn't trust him if I was in the private sector and I was wanting to have someone invest money for me. I'm not giving it to this guy, but maybe there's someone who will.
Right.
So yes, he's trying to clean up his image because he's got no choice. He's got no choice but to do that.
Good point. So a few more questions before we move on to the next phase. You said when you were doing a lot of the special tech stuff, that you were investigating or were involved with trying to bring down organized crime.
Yes.
Now, I will say, if I touch on something we can't talk about, just say, I can't talk about that, or Toby can edit things out, Was the Italian mafia still existing at that point, and were things going on in the upper part of the state with that part of organized crime? And were there other things that you can speak on? That's going to be the most famous organized crime, organization that we're all aware of. But were there other ones that we might know about? Any famous cases you were in on, anything like that?
I would say this, our motto in one of the mottos in tech services, anonymity is what you live by.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things that we just never talk about. When we work cases, we never talked about them with law enforcement. We would, not even let, other state police officers know hey, what are you working on? Guys want to know, especially if it's something juicy. Hey, what are you doing? No, nothing. because you did not talk about it, could not talk about it. There's a lot of stuff that we just did not talk about. Guys knew what I did. A lot of the stuff, if it was drug related, that was fine. They knew I was there. Hey, we're working a drug case. But if we were working, say, hey, we know this guy killed his wife. I had a case where a guy killed his wife. Him and the father cut her body up, and they took it to 2 different states. We would go to those states and put overhears in those houses down there and meet with the local authorities. And I can remember one case, we were down in Tennessee, and we met with the locals there and the state police, and they were amazed at what we were going to be doing. They're like, you guys can do that? And well, you're going to stay here? No, when we're done, we're going to pipe everything back to Illinois, so we don't have to stay here in a hotel and listen to this, but we need to get down here and get on someone's system and put it in the system where we can go home and listen to these phone calls and monitor what's going on. But that was about as far as we would go with people and cases. If it was organized crime, that case is probably being appealed, is still working. So I won't get into details on it because, I don't know where this, what's going on with that today. I mean, again, I've been out of law enforcement long enough that case could be off, those cases could be completely done, or they can be working another angle, because you can get into an organized crime case and you can work this aspect of it and be done with it. But now that guy is going to cooperate, so it opens up other doors to that. It's organized crime for a reason. These guys are smart, they're educated, okay, and they are organized. It's not the hood rat you're taking down off the street. This is organization. Okay, and the organizations they're multifaceted. So you may be working on one tier and there's other tiers that you're going to get to. So we really never talked about stuff like that there. We may talk about basic things, like I said, if guys saw me around and like, what are you doing? A lot of it was, when we doing this regular drug cases where I'm wiring someone up, sending them into a house to get a recording. Those were cases that may turn into what we would call an OCDEF case, which is a federal case where we're tying in maybe 30 people or tying in an organization. And you give, I'm just here to do this part of it, where you might be doing a whole lot of it. We just never, ever talked about that. They just knew what we did. There was very few of us around. I covered a very large area. One aspect of it, you have an aspect of it where the state police has a cannabis program where we're working cases against people growing marijuana, which wasn't legal then, out in the woods or out on their property. And I would come in and plant cameras, microphones, or alarms in a marijuana field so that we knew when the person was in there. Alarm goes off, we go in and try to catch them, or I go in and plant cameras to catch them growing it. That's kind of obsolete. Some of it's obsolete now because marijuana is legal in the state of Illinois now. It's still illegal to grow it like that there, how that was being grown, but that was a big part of it. You may be flying over, some organized crime, people's property, and so I'm up there in an airplane taking long range pictures of it. So it was a lot of different aspects of it, but a lot of it was just so cloak and dagger that people didn't know when I came and gone or came and went.
So 2 questions and then we'll move on. You can either answer this yes, no, or Corey, let's move on. Were there ever any international groups that touched into Illinois that you had dealings with, international crime organizations?
I would say this, there absolutely was, but we're going to move on.
Okay, yeah, that's all I needed. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Next question.
Again, this is a very large state with a lot going on. There's a lot of money here.
Yeah, no, I figured. Next question. So you mentioned the marijuana. Obviously now that whole dynamic's changed in the state of Illinois. Did you ever deal with any moonshiners at the southern tip of the state that didn't, try to circumvent the revenue, the taxes? And I understand if you can't talk about that either, but I'm just curious.
No, never did. Never any moonshine. We knew moonshine was going on, but that was never something that I may have been involved with when I was in that unit. There were, when I took over investigations, when I left that unit and went back to investigations to run investigations, we had a couple of cases where we were working some moonshine cases where people were bringing, liquor and tobacco, because cigarettes was also a big thing too, back and forth across the state line.
Yeah, that's a good point because it's so much cheaper in Kentucky. And I mean, I know people that have made a career out of growing it. So yeah, I didn't even think of that. And I'm right in the epicenter of that, both moonshine and tobacco. But yeah, I just figured probably some of the guys at the very southern tip of the state, basically in unofficial Kentucky, down in the bottoms, kind of where I live. I mean, right across the river from where I live now. And I'm curious about that. I found out later in life my grandpa was a moonshiner.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably a lot of people's grandparents were.
Yeah. So by the time I came along, I mean, everybody was going to a Pentecostal church, and my grandma was such a no nonsense, put her foot down kind of lady. And so her version of, her relationship with my grandpa was that he came home one night and had whiskey or something. And she said, it's either me or the alcohol, you choose. And in her version, he quit immediately.
Okay. Good.
And
Good for
I
him.
mean,
Good for him.
and like my mom said, I never saw my dad drunk or drink at all. So maybe that's true. But one night, my brother loves anything that's hickish or redneckish. It's like, my mom's side of the family were hillbillies.
Okay.
And I think my brother I don't know, man, the apple maybe didn't roll as far with him as it did with me. So like, he loves watching anything like that. He just like moonshiners, and he watches this show called Down East Dickering, where it's a bunch of people in the Northeast that are basically like rednecks, but they live in New Hampshire, and they're like, they're pickers. They're always trying to buy, go into storage sheds. My brother just loves the stuff, right? Okay. So him and my uncle were watching moonshiners one night, and I just asked my uncle, I was like, hey, did anyone in our family do this? He goes, yeah, your grandpa. And I was like, you mean your grandpa, my great grandpa? He goes, no, my dad, your grandpa. He said when he was young, he was a moonshiner, and they locked him up one time for 3 days, but they had to let him go because they couldn't prove anything. So I just kind of have a fascination now with that lifestyle.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously dangerous and not a good idea. But anyways, so you get out of the tech unit. You said 8 years you were doing that?
I did that for 8 years, correct.
And then what did you do after that?
So then I came back to investigations. I took over, first I took over a drug task force unit. Okay. And then shortly after that, I was promoted again. So I had a drug task force unit and a general crime unit. Then I took another promotion. And then basically everything from Mount Vernon South, I became the Zone 7 South Commander. So everything south of Mount Vernon South to Cairo, I supervised investigations for that. And we had 2 meth teams. I had 2 general investigations unit, 3 drug units. And when I call general investigation, drug unit is a drug unit. They work drugs, they work narcotics. A general investigation unit will work anything from a dead baby case to police corruption. We did a lot of that. That wasn't something that we enjoyed doing, but when you get calls that, hey, this is a dirty cop, police officer, he's doing this or he's doing that, we investigate. We have to investigate it. And I can remember an incident, and I won't name the county, but at this one county, within those 14 counties that I supervised, we had 5 cases against 5 separate deputies from the same sheriff's department. 3 of the cases were basically sexual assault. 2 of them were deputies having sex with underage girls, and one having intercourse with inmates. We had a case where we had 2 deputies charged with abuse in a children's home.
Gosh.
And these were major cases. They were major offenses. Very bad look on law enforcement. And it's no police officer wants to work around someone that's being what you consider called a dirty cop. Police officers are everyday people. They're brothers, sisters, moms, dads, uncles, aunts. They're regular people. But when you've got a corrupt one, you want to get that person out of there as quick as you can. You want them out of there because they're tarnishing the badge. They're tarnishing everything that you took an oath for and that you stood for. Like I said, the first time I had an encounter with a bad police officer was when the one, took my drugs that I was buying as a narcotics agent. And that's when it became really apparent to me that, okay, really, this is a real thing. Okay. So it's not something that I would hang my flag on, that I arrested a lot of dirty police officers, but I arrested dirty police officers when they came on my radar, and we worked the case successfully against them. And they made the case where, there was an arrest. And it was from everything from that to extortion, everything from, stealing to extortion, to sex with minors.
So extortion, like, if a cop pulls me over, hey man, you were going 84 in the 65, but I don't really have to say anything about it. You got any cash on you? Like, I mean, is that kind of the type of thing we're talking about here?
Yes. I mean, we had, I would say we probably had a dozen of those in my career in that short period there that I when I came to supervise investigation, where police officers would pull you over, and if the ticket was $75, I'll take 50. Okay. We had one where the guy wanted to pay the fine, and the guy didn't have enough. He didn't have change, and the officer said, "Well, I'll just keep the change." Of course, that guy got home and called, "Hey, well, this officer just, he kept the change. He, wrote me a ticket," and he said, "Well, I'll just keep the change." And of course, the guy never turned in the ticket. If he had to post $75 bond, the violator only had, he had 420s, $80. Well, I'll keep the extra $5. Well, that's a sign. You can't keep an extra $5.
When they investigate that, did the cop have a body cam or like a dash cam where they could actually prove he did in fact pull that guy over, but just never wrote the ticket?
So body cams were just now starting to come in. And so again, I'm dating myself, but body cams were just now starting to come in, and a lot of officers didn't have them. Okay. A lot of them hated the idea of body cams. Body cams was a great idea because it will, if you're doing your job and you're doing what you're supposed to do, it's going to tell the truth. And I want that, because if people accuse you of doing something that you didn't do, one is your word against that person's word. But if you got that body cam video footage that it records the whole situation, hey, now you're exonerated. But, we had a case of, basically it was sex extortions, where this officer was going around to women, and instead of taking them to jail, he would give them an opportunity to have sex with them. Okay. And he did this to one lady. She had sex with him to keep from going to jail that night. She didn't want to go to jail. We only know this because this mutt of an officer came back 2 days later and wanted to have more sex with her. And she said, "No, this is not going to happen." And that's when she called. And of course, we set up a sting, and we got the guy coming there in her house. He's in there too long. And of course, he claimed he didn't do it, but we DNA'd the house, and we've got your DNA in this lady's house. And, why would and I don't mean, skin shavings, I mean your DNA.
DNA.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, your DNA that shouldn't be coming out of your body in this woman's house. We've got it in there. That was one that kind of like, wow, are you kidding me? But it was, we were very happy to get this mutt, and I call him a mutt because that's what that person was to us, off the street and into where he belonged, handcuffs and in a jail. Officers that take money. There are bad people out there, whether they're police officers, doctors, attorneys, priests. Okay.
100%.
Okay. A bad person's a bad person. Okay. That profession is just what they happen to be doing. But if they're a bad person, whether they're selling you bad policies or they are asking you for extra money, I said bad policy, insurance policies, I guess, or they're asking you for extra money, they're a bad person if they're violating the law, and you want those people arrested and taken out of that position. There are, I've had close to I think 8 members in my family that were in law enforcement. Some still are. So law enforcement's big in my family. I don't want to be in a profession that has bad people in it. I want them rooted out. Okay. You take an oath to do the right things and to protect the public and to serve the public. Okay. And if you can't obey that oath, you need to get out of this line of work. And so for those people that violate that oath, they need arrested. Okay. So just because you're wearing a badge, when you're breaking the law wearing that badge, you know what? You're arresting criminals for doing it. You're a criminal yourself and you need arrested. Okay. You should not be above the law. So if you're doing that, I mean, we've had an officer, don't want to name the town again either, or the department, robbing banks.
What?
Okay.
Like while in uniform or just?
No, the person wasn't in uniform, but sometimes, you get to looking at it, you see things that indicate, you can watch someone's movement and say, that guy's moving like a cop.
He's
like
got
a police
training.
officer. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Or military. So you start looking at things and then you start with this one. We, kind of shared the video and it's like, yeah, that's such and such. We know that's him. And you get on him and you start watching him and boom, it is. So yeah, everything from bank robberies to sexual assault to murder.
How embedded into, I hate saying things like cop culture, because, you were in the Illinois State Police. That's probably going to look different than a Texas Ranger. That's going to look different than a guy who works for the NYPD, but like how embedded in cop culture is the sentiment that this is a fraternity. We're not going to tolerate your BS because we're here to make a difference and to serve. So we're going to stand against BS. I mean, was there kind of a general, like the guys that you're still friends with that I know? By the way, Stan and I know each other because there's a group of guys who've all retired from the state police and just a group of friends that get out and listen to music, and we've met each other that way. And then Celia Robertson, who was on the podcast last season, she has a big party every year that we're all at. So like you and Myron and Hector and your friend group, I mean, was there like a lot of solidarity? Like, hey, we're doing this the right way. Kind of like in sports, guys who chose not to put steroids in their body might have camaraderie. Like, we're going to be the guys of integrity. I mean, is that pretty embedded into cop culture? Did you experience that early on in your career? Did the guys that were mentoring you let you know, hey, man, we're not tolerating any of this,
So you used the word camaraderie, and that is one of the better parts of the job. You had that with certain people, and that camaraderie didn't end when we retired. I have a group of police officer friends of mine that we do a whole lot of things together, because when we were on the job, we did everything together. We did, we went to picnics together. We attended each other's kids' baseball or birthday parties. I've got a lot of nieces and nephews out there that I'm not their biological niece and nephew, but because that person and that person's dad, was one of my partners or one of my close friends, and we did everything together. We were always there. You're like that uncle. Okay. I can give you a list of nieces and nephews that call me Uncle Stan, that I'm not their biological uncle, but I'm that uncle that's always been there because we attend each other's kids' birthday parties. We vacation with each other. And now that our children are adults, we vacation with each other's and their spouses. And we stay together. A couple of those guys you mentioned and a couple more, we go on an annual baseball trip every year. Okay. Where we attend 3 ballparks in 4 days. Okay. It's all nothing but a guy trip. And we don't chase the Cubs or the Cards because we're split. There's 10 of us, so there's 5 each way. We go and watch baseball. We go for the thrill of just going to a different park to watch a ball game and to hang out and to enjoy each other's company. So you do have that. And, yes, I'm a state trooper and these guys were all troopers. Local officers have the same thing. When I say local, I'm talking city and county officers. Okay. And I'm sure FBI agents do. That was one of the gifts of the job, that you've got this brotherhood. Now, you also have that thing where people think cops aren't going to rat on each other. But if you're doing your job correctly, you don't have to. you're not put in that position. If you're doing the job that you were hired to do and you're following your oath of office, this never comes into play.
So let me ask this before we get into your current endeavor, because you are running for sheriff. I'm going to ask two questions. What would you like to say to the general public just about policing? Because you told me off camera, you're really fortunate to be alive. You were in a shootout one time where a guy, you don't know how he missed you, but you've probably put your life on the line hundreds of times to protect and serve. Even things like routine traffic stops can turn into a deadly situation. So before we get into now kind of the political side, what would you like the general public to know about police officers?
That police officers are doing a job that most people wouldn't think to do. Okay. And it is a difficult job. There are a lot of challenges on the job. Okay. Most times that you're going to a place where people don't want you there. You're going to a house that you've been called to. Okay. Or you're stopping someone in traffic that don't want to be stopped. Okay. But you're stopping them because they're doing something wrong. Or you're going to that house because there's a problem. So you're immediately being put into a position where nobody wants to see you. Okay. So I'm gonna bag up and say, about 5, 6, 7 years ago, that big move to defund the police, to get rid of the police, because society thought that, well, we don't need the police. But when something goes wrong and you need help, who are you going to call? When you've got some guy that wants to fight or wants to shoot it out or rob a bank, well, you're going to call a counselor to come and talk him out of it, to tell him, hey, you shouldn't take that money. You should go to work and get a job and pay your bills like everyone else. It's that. So most police officers don't want to be in those positions, but that's the job that comes with that. Okay. You swore an oath to do a job. And sometimes that job it's unfriendly and nobody wants to see you. And you know that going in.
And, Stan has been very honest today and last week about, yes, there are bad cops, but he's not whitewashing any of this. He's telling you that he knows plenty of police officers, most of the ones he's ever met, that are motivated for the right reasons, willing to put their life on the line. But this has been a very honest look at somebody who's tried to do their best job, trying to make the community better. And then I had made the comment off camera that you're a BA because you never volunteered for just kind of routine jobs. You always put yourself in situations where you were on the front line, so to speak. So I want to say thank you, because we're about to shift into no longer talking about being in state police. But before we transition, I just want to thank you for your service. We're all grateful to you. You're a true rock star. But now you're in a new chapter. You're in a new part of your life. You are running for Sheriff of Williamson County, Illinois, which is where we are right now. We're in Marion, Illinois. What motivated you to do that? First, let's just start there. What's your motivation for running for sheriff?
Seeing a lot of the things that's going on in society or in our county with the current sheriff's department. I'm a resident, so I hear and see some of the same things that everyone else is seeing. When you're turning on the TV or you're looking at social media and you're seeing things that just don't fit, okay, or that this isn't right. And I know for a fact, I spent 28 years serving in this state, okay, in a law enforcement capacity. So I know when something's not right. I know when this thing's not being done like it should be done, or it's not being done at the level that it should. Okay, I know that there are a lot of good deputies that work for Williamson County Sheriff's Department that put their life on the line, and they are true believers in the faith. But I also feel that that position could be served better with more experience, more training, okay, and better leadership. And that's why I feel that this is an endeavor that I'm willing to take, to put myself through the grind of this campaign, which it is a grind. Okay, but it's one that I'm willing to take. This is what God wants me to do. Things are falling in place for me because I'm being led to this. I truly believe that.
What are some of the biggest differences between what your everyday life might have been like as a state trooper and having to think now about, you're running for a political office, essentially. It's not just political, it's still law enforcement. But there is a bigger political nature. So what types of considerations do you have to think about now? You had mentioned to me too that even things like friend requests on Facebook, you have to think about that. You can't just accept a friend request unless you really know someone, which sucks. It sucks that we live in a world like that. And even me as a musician, I have to think about that as I branch out and get more of a following. I think about guys I grew up with saying something stupid on my Facebook page. You know what I'm saying? So what are some of the considerations you have to take now that you really didn't have to think about?
So the difference is this, when I was a state trooper, you didn't have to worry about politics. Okay, we were state police officers. Okay, we didn't fall into a local regime. We didn't fall into that local government. Okay, running for a political office, your actions out in public, the things that you say and do. Say if I go into a restaurant and want to have 2 drinks or have a beer with my dinner, there's some people can look at that and say, well, that guy's drinking. He's having a beer with dinner, where that's common and normal in society. I'm of age, obviously. But there's some people that may look down on that. Well, why are you drinking alcohol? And you're going to enforce alcohol laws. What if you pull somebody over that's been drinking? It's not the same thing, but those are things that you have to look at. When I talked about social media and getting friend requests, yes, I look at the friend requests to see what type of stuff that individual has been posting on social media. And if they're very radical and they are way out there, well, they may want to be a friend request to see to see my inner side of me. And I may decide, well, you're a little too far out there for me to accept your friend request. It's a daily grind with that. Sometimes people want it for nefarious reasons. So you don't accept that. There's certain things that, you have to catch yourself and make sure you maintain yourself. My wife tells me I need to dress better. You can't just leave out of the house and, your gym shorts and a ratty shirt now, because people are looking at you. You're an image. Okay. So, that's, a change. So it's that, and it's, taking the time to talk with the public. When people see you and recognize you, I get recognized now. I get stopped grocery store, the hardware store, the gas station. I get stopped and people want to talk to you. It's your job now to stop and talk to them, because they're trying to get a feel. Hey, I really don't know you. I may have Googled you and saw all the investigations you have done and people you've arrested, but I really don't know you. I want to talk to you so you can earn my vote. Well, you have to take the time now and talk to that individual and tell them and convince them why you think that you are the best fit, and that is what I'm trying to do. And if people think that I'm the best fit, and there's more of those people that think that, then I will be your next sheriff. But if enough people think, well, no, I don't think that, I think we're good where we are, then I won't be. And I'll leave that in God's hands.
Where can people learn more about your platform? And what is your platform? Do you see specific things that you want to see change in Williamson County? And then where could people find more information about that?
So a lot of the things that I want to see change are basic things. Okay. I'm bringing experience. Okay. I'm bringing a career of exposure to things that most local officers just don't get exposed to. I had the luxury of working all over the state and working in other states in my capacity as a trooper, okay, or as a state policeman. The things that I was exposed to, most people just don't hit those. The area of Williamson County, Marion is growing faster than anything outside the Metro East area. We're exploding here, and we're growing, and there's more businesses coming. Well, with that also comes crime. Okay, whether it's organized crime or high risk crime, there's more things that's going to be happening here, and we have to look at that and adjust for that. We have to train our officers to be prepared for different aspects of what will be following all of this new construction and all of this new build. We've got to adjust for that. We have to train for that. So I'm looking to fortify our training. Send my officers to make sure that they're, cutting edge. We're cutting edge technology. Williamson County is one of the largest counties, again, outside the Metro East area. We're the largest county. We should be leading by example. We should be the example. And that's what I want to bring. Where you can go and learn more about me, www.diggsforsheriff.com is my website. Elect Stan Diggs is my social media site. Go on there and, you're going to see people say good things about me. You may see people that say bad things about me, but look into why you may be saying that bad thing about me. Is that, someone just don't like me. Everyone's not going to like everyone. But I think I'm bringing, what I'm going to bring is a different level of training, a different level of experience. Neither of my candidates has the exposure or the experience that I have. It's 28 years is a long time, and I've worked all over the state of Illinois. I've been in more situations than any of these guys will ever believe on. High-risk search warrants, homicide investigations, death investigations. That's a whole lot. Organized crime. Most people don't get to do those things. Emergency response situations. I've been in all of those things. So it's the experience and the leadership. Is the huge takeaways here. Is this the type of experience that Williamson County residents want in their sheriff?
And if people have questions, they want to interact with you, is there like a email Stan button that they can hit, or like an email address? Is that the best way for them to do that? Would you prefer they do that versus like a phone number or something?
So on my website, you can put in any question. And if your group would like me to come and speak before your group, we welcome that. Okay, I welcome that, because again, you should get to know who's going to be representing them, or who you're going to be voting for. I recommend that you do reach out to me, and you ask, hey, can you come and talk to our organization? You give me a date and a time, or we can work out a date and a time. I will be there, and I will open up. I'm a book. You turn the page to what you want to hear about, and we'll talk about that.
That's pretty amazing. Well, we're going to end with this today. I don't live in Williamson County, by the way, and I really wanted Stan to come on for a variety of reasons. Like I said, we go to the same big giant pool party every year, and Stan had mentioned something to me just in passing. I always knew about him being a state trooper, but I think he had mentioned something about his time like on the drug task force. I was like, man, we really got to get him on the podcast. And then I am just, curious about the inner workings of running for sheriff and what that entails. So I thought it would just be a great conversation. I think Stan's going to be comfortable with me saying this. So I don't ever really endorse people in anything I do. I had the mayor of Paducah on last year during a mayoral race. But I believe Stan is comfortable enough in and of himself, and confident with his experience, and comfortable with where he stands on the issues, that he doesn't need me to do that. In fact, he probably welcomes you looking into him, his career,
Absolutely.
and researching his positions. So if you do live in Williamson County, interact with Stan. Go to his website, send him any questions you have, or if you would like to have him come speak to a group of folks so you can see where he stands on the issues, do that. And then I want to end again with saying thank you, not just for coming on the podcast, but for everything you've done. I hope you realize that you have a legacy that's never going to be taken away from you. You've put your life on the line for all of us. We really can't thank you enough for that. And I just want to thank you for how you've always treated me. You and your wife, Amy, are very supportive of me. You've always been kind to me and been a friend to me. So thank you so much, Stan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Corey.
All right. Well, once again, I want to give a huge thank you to Stan Diggs for coming on this show today and last week. But most importantly, for his life of dedication and service to the people of Illinois. Stan put his life on the line repeatedly and was on the front line, so to speak, for years. So we all owe Stan a huge thank you, and I really appreciate him being willing to bring us inside the world of what it's like to be a state trooper, but also what it's like to run a local campaign for a political office. So thank you, Stan. Thanks for your service, and thank you for this discussion today, and also our discussion last week. All right, guys, you looking to buy a house? Are you looking to sell a house? Contact House 2 Home Realty in Southern Illinois if you are anywhere in the Marion, Heron, Carbondale area. You want to contact House 2 Home Realty. You will not be sorry. Just trust me on this, all right? And Pizza Inn on Joe Clifton Drive in Paducah, Kentucky, the best pizza buffet in the game, one of the best salad bars you will ever find. Pizza Inn, make sure you go there. Tell them Corey sent you. And finally, Metropolis Music and Media. Guys, if you need media work done, you need to contact Metropolis Music and Media. Now, maybe you are an artist like me. Maybe you're a musician and you need music videos produced, or you need social media help. Contact Toby at Metropolis Music and Media and tell him Corey said to contact him. Toby's one of my best friends. He does tremendous work and he edits this podcast. So if you need media work done, contact Toby. Guys, I'm about to sign off. I just want to let you know how excited I am for all of this stuff we have coming up. I'm excited about my band playing. I'm excited about Empower Paducah. I'm always excited to get to live this life that I have, and I get to have these freedoms. I get to live the life that I'm choosing to live because of people like Stan, because of people like my cousin Andy, who served in the Air Force, who was on a few months ago. He was on the pod. Tom Harness, who was on the pod in the second episode of this season. Tom was in the Army, and people like Toby. Toby also served after 9/11 in the U.S. Army. So huge shout out to all of the men and women who serve in our military or who have served, our police officers, our first responders, our firefighters. Also shout out to Cortez, who was on a few weeks ago, who works in corrections and has been a firefighter for a long time. We owe all of you a huge thank you. So thank you. Thank you for what you do. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening to the podcast, because even though I am not a rock star, because of the people who defend my freedoms and because of all of you, I get to live a rock and roll life. Peace.